Alright, this video is about how to estimate definite integrals with the aid of a graphing calculator. So for this example, we are going to estimate the definite integral of this function from x equals -2 to x equals 1 to x equals 1. And so there's a couple of ways to do this on your calculator. I'm going to label this f of x. It is a function of x. And so one way is you can actually get a graph of it and estimate the definite integral in the graph. So we'll try that way first. So first, to get a graph of this function, press the button y equals at the upper left-hand corner. It's in the top row of buttons, and input this function that I have displayed above under y1. Because you can display several functions at once, we just want to display this one. And then either push graph. If your window is nice, there's a graph button on the right of the top row of buttons. And if your window is looking a little weird, push zoom 6. So there's a big button on the top row in the middle, and then push the number 6, and it gives you a standard window, and you should get something that looks like this very rough sketch in your window. Now, to estimate a definite integral, our calculator can not only graph functions, but it can calculate many properties of a graph. So what you want to do is push the second key, which is, if you don't include the upper row of buttons, it's on the upper left, and then push trace. So what you're actually doing is you're pushing calculate. So trace, and by pushing the second key, that you're actually saying calc, which stands for calculate. So if we do that, and I'm following along with you, you can go down to option 7 then, and it has a little symbol that says exactly what we want. It says integral of f of x dx. That's what option 7 is. And once you do that, it will take you back to the graph, and there will be a question at the very bottom that asks you for the lower limit. Now, what is the lower limit? Well, it's the lower limit. It's the left endpoint from which we want to take the definite integral. So you have the option to just trace along the graph using the arrow keys to do this, but the precise way is to just enter -2. So then you want to enter your lower limit, which is -2, and then push enter. And then it'll ask you for the upper limit, and it's just asking you for the right-hand limit of the definite integral you're looking for. So if you enter 1 and then enter, not only will it estimate what you want, it'll actually shade it in for you on the graph. So your graph won't look like this anymore. It'll start at -2 here and go all the way to 1, and it'll shade these areas in for you. So you get a picture of what you want. And then at the bottom, it'll give you your estimate, and I believe in this case you should be getting -0.75. So in this case, since it's not a very long decimal, we don't have a bunch of extra decimal places here, this is probably exact, but you can never be sure unless you calculate it by hand. Okay, so there's one more way to do this if you don't want to go through the whole graphing rigmarole. What you can do is go to your home screen, so push quit, so second and then mode, and that will take you to what's called the home screen. And once you're there, you can push the math button. It is a couple keys under the second key. You can push math, and you can either scroll down to option 9 or just push the number 9. And then on your home screen, this will come up. It'll look like FNINT, which probably stands for function integral or something like that, and an open parenthesis. And you have to be careful with what's called the syntax here. First, enter in the function that you want to integrate. So in this case, we enter in our f of x, and I'm not going to copy the whole thing down. I'll just write f of x here. But what you want to enter here is x cubed plus x squared minus 6x minus 3. And then enter a comma. And once you enter the first comma, you have to enter in the x key. What you're doing here is you're telling the calculator what variable you want to integrate with respect to. You don't really have to think a lot about this part, just kind of do it. And then another comma, and enter in your lower limit, which in this case is -2. And then another comma, followed by your upper limit, which in this case is 1, and then a close parenthesis, and then press enter. And if you do that, then it should give you this same estimate that it gave you on the graph. Okay, so now you have two ways to estimate definite integrals with your calculator.